cool? Wow. Hey, come on, we can be a little bit more excited than that. Come on, make some noise. We are an Airborne church this morning. I'm so excited to be speaking to my church this morning. For those who maybe don't know me or you're watching online or you're a first-time guest, my name is Emmett, and my wife, Morgan, and I get the privilege and honor to be the family pastors here at Airborne Church. And believe it or not, this January marks our 7th year, Pastors Kevin and Beth being here, our 7th year. And it was exactly 7 years ago on January 14th, 2012 that I married my wife. And then we went on a 1-week honeymoon, came back to Ohio, packed up everything in 3 days and arrived here on a Wednesday. And then what's cool about this Sunday is that exactly 7 years ago on this Sunday would have been our first Sunday that we were officially moved here at Airborne Church. And so we are honored. I'm so excited. So 7 years, 3 kids, 1 mortgage later, and we feel just as excited to be here. But I don't just say this because it's necessary or because we get asked to. Thank you, Pastors Kevin and Beth, for allowing me to speak on this platform and to our church this morning. I know the Keck family loves you and wouldn't be who we are without your leadership in our lives. So I love you guys. And before I go anywhere else, I'd like to pray, because I believe this message is not just a jumble of words and phrases that I've put together in my own power. I know this message was birthed out of God's own heart for each of us to hear this morning. And so I'd like for you to become fully engaged, to lean in. If you're watching online, go ahead and lean in on your nice, comfortable chair or couch, wherever you're sitting on right now. But lean in with us, and let's pray. God, I thank you for this morning. I thank you that we get to be in your church. I thank you for what we get to hear from you. Open our ears, open our hearts to what you have for us to hear this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. You see, if you missed last week's message or you just don't know, we're in the middle of a series called #Goals. And last week, Pastor Beth, you knocked it out of the park. Did she not just give an incredible message on write it? And to give you a quick paraphrase of her message, it's all about the power of writing down your goals. It was inspired by the scripture Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. And you'll see it on the screens right here where it says, write it out in big block letters so that it can be read on the run. Just the power of writing out the vision for your life, the goals for your life. And we were even given these blank cards last Sunday where we could write out our own goals, and that's where I want to pick it up right now. Because I believe we've all been there before, where we write out our goals for the year. Maybe you write it in your phone. Maybe you write it in your computer. Maybe you write it on that card you got last week. Maybe you even get a little crafty, as some of my friends do. And they do this thing that's called a vision board. And they get, some glitter and some stickers and some magazine things, and they cut it out. I've done that once before, and my vision board looked more like a ransom note that a child put together. And so I was actually discouraged going into my year. Or maybe for you like to get a new, fresh journal because it makes you feel just warm and clean, and it's new, and it's blank paper, and it's fresh, and it smells good, and you start writing out your goals, right? And these goals are good goals, aren't they? These goals are incredible goals. These goals are so good that other people's goals are like, no, that's a goal. Those are good goals, and you're pumped, and you're excited, and you're thinking the world's your oyster because nothing's gonna stop you from achieving these goals, so much so that you even think it with a smile on your face. You're like, not even a mountain can stop me from achieving all my goals. You are pumped. You are excited. And then boom, it happens. The next day happens. The very next day happens. You go to reach for that donut and you're like, oh, I just made a goal. I gotta eat a little more healthy. You go to hit the snooze button to sleep in. You're like, oh, I just made a goal to wake up and be more on time. Or you go to say some mean words to that car that just cut you off, but you made a goal to be more patient. God bless your heart. And you are so excited about being more patient in this year. See, now that you've wrote out your goals, there comes the next dramatic, pivotal step in your goals. You have to work it. You have to actually do it. Writing it is so key, but now you actually have to do it. You have to do it. So that's what we get to talk about this morning is work it. Everyone say, work it. Work it. No. Say it with a little bit of attitude, like you're watching a fashion show. Look, let's try it out. Look to the person to your right and say, work it. Look to the person to your left, a little more attitude and go, work it. All right, now when you say it this time, you gotta just emphasize with the hips, work it. Anybody? See, when you emphasize, I just got inspired by Pastor Kevin Beth with the Pentecostal step that they were doing earlier. Sorry, just just getting all excited. Work it. We're gonna talk about working it today. Is that good? Oh man. There's a reason why the stats are so high on people failing their New Year's resolutions in the first days, weeks, and months. Because it's hard. They realize very quickly that it's hard. It takes work because we quickly realize that inspiration won't get us up out of bed in the morning. Discipline does. Self-control does. And getting back up when you fail does. See, there are many steps on how to work it when it comes to achieving your goals. I mean, there's success seminars, there's books, there's tons of information you can find on how to achieve your goals. But I want to focus on 3 this morning. When it comes to working it, the first step is this: discipline. Essentially, this message is about just that, discipline. The discipline to work towards a goal, the discipline to put yourself on a plan to reach a goal. Anything we ever achieve in life, whether you realize it or not, requires discipline. Did you know that you can have good disciplines and bad disciplines in your life? They're called habits. It takes 21 days to do something continually to form a neural pathway in your brain that forms a habit. Some of us have formed habits in our life that we don't even know about. Some of us have formed habits that are not good for ourselves. Some of us have formed habits that are great for ourselves. I know for me, I recently got rid of the Instagram app on my phone. This was even before the new year began. I found that this Instagram app was keeping me away from the present moments, and also it made me compare myself to other people. And so I said, I don't want that in my life anymore. So I just got rid of the app entirely. And I didn't know I had formed a bad habit until one day I caught my hand as if it was possessed, reached for my phone, and my thumb just started looking for the app. And then it kept trying to want to scroll through something. And I realized that I had formed a habit of whenever I felt like I was bored, or whenever I felt like I had to wait more than 30 seconds, or whenever I felt like I was in a meeting and I felt it was appropriate to look at my phone, I thought I could just start scrolling. I'd formed a terrible habit of wanting to do that. And so what I found is that once I deleted the app, it's been over 21 days now, I no longer find myself searching for my phone to scroll. I no longer find my hand looking for something to look through. If you want to achieve the goals for your life, you have to work at forming new habits for your life that in turn create new disciplines. But Emmett, that's cute and all. Instagram is great, but you don't know the goals that I have. I have big goals. I mean, you should have seen the goals that I wrote down. So how do I do it? How do I achieve it? How do I have this discipline? What do I do, Emmett? I'm so glad you asked. It starts with one day at a time. Pick the day, write it out, pick a date, and say, I'm gonna start on this day. And when you start it, one day at a time. And guess what happens? One day turns into 2 days. What? 2 days turns into 5 days. 5 days turns into a week and a half. All of a sudden, you're starting to get some momentum. Aren't you? All of a sudden, you're realizing that you can achieve this. A week and a half turns into 20 days. And no, you're really feeling the wind in your sails as it's pushing you with this new habit you're forming. Before you know it, you're a month down. You're 1/12 of the year through, and you've started working on a new habit. You've created a new discipline, haven't you? It starts with the one day to start it. You keep going one day at a time. You keep working it. That's how you form that habit that turns into a discipline. See, 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 tells us, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. See, God has already given us everything we need to make the goals that we want to achieve achievable. He's already given it to us. It's already in us. So maybe you have a goal to read the Bible more or to pray more. And you're like, I want that goal. Maybe you've even gone as far as to say that you want to have a goal to read the Bible every day and pray to God every day. And I want to say that's a fantastic goal for you to have, but I want you to be careful. Because what can happen is you can turn that into a checklist instead of a relationship. And before you know it, it's more about checking off what you've done instead of having a heart connection with God. And so just be cautious in a good way. Forgive yourself if you don't do it. That's what I'm saying. Allow yourself some forgiveness when you're achieving and working towards these goals. One more thing I want to say about discipline is this. There's a reason why when you take the letters I and N out of discipline, you get the word disciple. Because to be a Christian, we are meant to be disciples of Jesus. And to be a disciple of Jesus means that you get taught by him, you get trained by him, and you also get disciplined by him. In Hebrews chapter 12, it tells us that for our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best that they knew how. But God's discipline is always good for us so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. Everyone say, while it is happening. Thank you. It's painful, but afterward there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. See, some of you feel like you are in the middle of this is painful part of your discipline, isn't it? You're feeling like, God, this is uncomfortable. I have 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and 2 out of 3 of them currently either have the flu or are sick. And so I've learned something about my little kids, is that I have to discipline them just about every day, all 3 of them, in different ways. And for some reason, Zeke, my 4-year-old, seems to be the one who I discipline the most. And maybe it's because he's most like me. Maybe it's because he's just so sweet and he has a way of doing things that he knows he shouldn't do, but he smiles and he breaks Morgan. How many of you know when you're trying to discipline a child, if they see you smile, they know that they've just won? So Morgan will look at me and she'll just break. She'll start laughing, and Zeke can get his mom to laugh. It's over. And so one time in particular, I had to discipline Zeke, and so I said, Zeke, if you do that one more time, you're gonna go in your room for timeout. And he, heeded the advice for a moment until he just quickly did it again. And so I had to pick him up. I walked him upstairs, I put him in his room, and I said, you are in timeout. Do not leave this bed until I come and get you. And then I closed the door, and he's screaming, and he's angry, and then very quickly the screaming and the angerness turns into just a cry. Now he's upset. And what he doesn't know is that I'm on the other side of that door, right, parents, and my hand's on that doorknob, and my heart is breaking because everything in me wants to open that door and sweep in and pick up my son and hold him and say, it's okay, Daddy's here, I love you, it's gonna be okay. But I also know that if I do that, I'm actually hindering him. Because he won't fully mature. He won't get the difference between wrong and right. He won't learn the lesson. He won't receive the discipline. And I want to show you the comparison to that's how it is with God sometimes, because when you are feeling like he is stretching you and he is pushing your boundaries and he's moving you in new directions and it's painful and it's hard, he's also right there at the edge of the door. And he knows how hard this is for you. And he does want to just pick you up and say, it's going to be okay. And he does in his own ways, but he also knows this. He's forming you. He's shaping you. And he has plans for you, which means that he is going to allow you to be shaped and to be formed and to go through the hard things because he loves you enough and doesn't want to hinder you to stay where you are. That's what I love about discipline with God, and that's why it also is so hard. Step number 1 when it comes to working it is discipline. Step number 2, self-control. Everyone say self-control. See, self-control and discipline go hand in hand. When it comes to your goals, discipline is the focus on your habits, where self-control is the focus on your emotions and situational events. Self-control is not saying that rude thing that you want to say to someone. Self-control is not eating the junk food that you want to eat when you feel that certain emotion or you're watching The Notebook. Self-control is recognizing that you want to do something that you know you shouldn't do and then you choose not to do it. That's what self-control is. The actual definition of self-control is this. I put it on the screen so you can read it with me. Self-control is the ability to control oneself, in particular one's emotions and desires, or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult situations. So basically, after reading that, self-control is just super easy, right? Self-control is a breeze. Self-control is simple. Self-control is easy when nothing is ever bothering you. Self-control is easy when no one's ever mean or rude to you. Self-control is easy when you don't have children. Self-control is easy when you're not feeling overwhelmed. Self-control is easy when you want that piece of chocolate, but you're trying to be healthy so you don't eat that piece of chocolate. Self-control is easy when you're in the school pickup line, but then Tracy cuts you off in that black minivan and the 18 stick-figure stickers on the back of that van, and now you really want to do something to that minivan. Self-control is easy because now all you want is chocolate. Did someone say chocolate? Self-control, baby. So easy, so easy. I was at Chick-fil-A the other month, and something happened at Chick-fil-A that's never happened to me before. Oh, gosh. I got upset when I was at Chick-fil-A, and that's never happened to me before. For those who don't know, I love Chick-fil-A. It's my first ever job. Truett Cathy, rest in peace, is a saint. This place is incredible. And I got upset, but not upset at Chick-fil-A. I got upset at a person who I bumped into at Chick-fil-A. And this is the story. I was in the minivan. I have a minivan. I love minivans. I just thought that was information you should know. I have a minivan. And on this particular day, we were going on a Saturday at lunchtime. And if you've ever been to Chick-fil-A on Saturday at lunchtime, it's comparable to New York City Times Square, just on how busy this place is. And so we did the loop a few times, and I'm in the minivan with my mom, with my wife, and my 3 kids. So there's 6 of us in this minivan. And after doing the loop 2 times, I realized I need to get these kids and these guys out of the car so that they can go ahead and go inside, and I can just do the loop and find a spot for our van. And so I stop, and when I stop, I'm by the side door, and at this point, there's maybe 1 car that's about to be behind me. So I'm like, guys, go ahead, get out. And so about 45 seconds later, which is I know is a little too long, they all got out of the car. And at this point, there was about 2 or 3 more cars behind me. And everyone's a little rambunctious because everyone wants the same thing. So I felt the tension of like, I need to move. And so I move around one more time, and I see this couple go to a car, and I'm like, yes, I found them, you know? And they get into their car, but I know that if I do one more loop, I'm gonna lose a spot. And so I pull over to the side of the road where we're next to the curb where cars can still go around me, and I put my blinker on like that's my spot. And that's my spot, okay? That is my spot. And as I've pulled to the curb now, another car that must have been behind me when I was dropping off my family just really casually drove past me. And the guy was looking at me and saying words. I couldn't hear what he was saying through the glass, but I know he wasn't blessing me. And I know he wasn't saying nice things to me. And so I just looked at him and kind of was like, okay, just keep going, sir. And so I see the rear view lights come on in that car, right? And I'm like, jackpot, this is mine. And so I put my van back and drive. And so I start to inch forward a little bit. And I notice that same car has now come back around again. And this time it's really close to where I'm at. And it gets like an inch away from my side mirror as this car pulls up. And he just looks at me. And I'm looking at him. And then he smiles at me. And I go, what are you smiling about? I got my spot. And then I realize he now veers a little to the right. He's now cut me off. And as he's smiling and looking at me, he just keeps moving forward, and he takes the spot as that car just pulled out. I about did the Pentecostal step on him, Pastor Kevin. And then as he's walking out of the car with his girlfriend, fiance, cousin, sister, I don't know who she is, he's got his arm around her and he's like saying things to me and doing this. And I just look at him the whole time. And so I had to practice self-control. So I got out of the van. Once I found a spot, I went up to his car and I slashed his tires real quick. And then as he was trying to pull out, I said, looks like you have car trouble, don't you? And I just smiled and drove. No, I didn't do that. I wanted to do that. No, but I went inside Chick-fil-A. I was with my mom. And I looked at him and I said, hey, nice to meet you. And I shook his hand. As he went for my hand, I punched him right in the throat. And then he couldn't breathe. I didn't do that either. We're not endorsing violence here at Airborne Church. This is about self-control, people. No, but I looked at him, right? And I just smiled as he looked at me, and he thought he had beat me, and I was just like, okay. And there was nothing that happened, but I love talking to other people about it, and they're like, oh man, if I was there, you better watch out. It's like, okay, we all love doing that, don't we? If I was there, I have a knife, I have a switchblade, I would have slashed the tire. I would have followed it home, wait till he fell asleep and breathed over his face and said, Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry. Are we in church? I don't even know right now. No. Self-control is not easy, am I right? So it is not easy because to master self-control means you have to learn to lead yourself. And the hardest person you're ever gonna have to lead or talk to or handle is yourself. When it comes to achieving the goals in our life, you better believe that we need this to succeed. And when I read in the Bible, I see how important self-control is. In Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28, it tells us, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls, which to me means that you have no filter for your life, which to me means that you let everything in that hurts you and everything out that's meant to help you. It means that you live recklessly. In Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23, it tells us this, but the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and certainly not least, but it is last on this list, self-control. If we want to not just achieve the goals for our lives, but also to achieve living life well, self-control is right at the top of the list. What I love about self-control is that it's right up there with the core values of what it means to be a Christian. When you think of Christian, you think of love, you think of hope, you think of joy, you think of peace, and now I want you to think of self-control, because it's right up there. See, the first two steps we covered when it comes to working it is discipline. And then self-control, number 3, when it comes to working it, is you gotta get back up. When it comes to reaching your goals, when it comes to life in general, you are going to fail. You are going to fall. You're going to stumble. You're going to get hurt. You're going to mess up. You're going to fall down. But the difference between winning and losing is not on when you hit your goal in the time frame you thought, but the difference between winning and losing is when you get back up when you fall. When Pastors Kevin and Beth asked me to speak this message in the series on discipline, on working it, I literally felt the air get like taken from my chest. I literally felt like, God, are you sure that you want me to speak this message on discipline? Because I had big goals for 2018. I had big things that I set out to accomplish. I had dreams. I wrote it all out. I spoke it out. I prayed it out. I had a fresh journal. I looked at the mountain and I said, you cannot stop me, mountain. I will achieve these goals. And what actually happened is a lot of my goals I went backwards in. Whew. I didn't triumphantly walk into 2019. I crawled into it. It was like I hit the buzzer and I said, I'm done. 2018 was hard. I felt like I was down more times than I was up. I felt like I was being broken more times than I was being healed. There were many times where I just didn't even know how to even move forward. And I bet I'm not the only one who felt that way. But something happened. All those times I was pushed down. all those times I tripped up, all those times I felt broken, all those times I felt like I had failed, all those times, it taught me how to get back up. It taught me how to get back up. And when the devil tried to put shame or embarrassment on me, I reminded him of who I am. And in Proverbs 24, verse 16, it says this: the godly may fall 7 times, but they will get up again. And what I love about that verse, it's a figure of speech. You can fall more than 7 times, but the godly will get up again. I fell so much more than 7 times, but I kept getting up, and I'm going to keep getting up. I'm never going to stop getting up. And when I fall, I'm going to get back up. And when I fall, I'm going to get back up. And when you fall, you're going to get back up. And I want to quickly I'll take it, but I want to quickly thank the devil for a second. I want to thank the devil. Because all those times he thought he had me down and beat, all those times he thought he stole my joy, that he thought he stole my peace, that he thought he stole my strength, that he thought he stole my identity, that he thought he stole who I was, what he actually did was awaken a giant in me. And now I can't help but be on a life mission. I'm going after him. I'm going to be the devil's worst nightmare. And my kids will be his worst nightmare. And my kids' kids will be his worst nightmare, because I get back up. And so you need to hear it. It's time to get back up. Do the Pentecostal step. Do something, and we're going to get back up. Come